Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian lad, and I just watched the final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier at 0.2 Febic speed. This is gonna be my complete breakdown plus my 0.2 Febic speed series. So I'm gonna go scene by scene and try to explain everything. And if any scene happens to have a hidden detail or an Easter egg, I'm gonna reveal that to you too. Today's episode picks up exactly where we left off. The GRC is being infiltrated by the Flag Smashers. Sam and Bucky are on their way in to rescue the GRC officials. Here we come to know that Sam called Sharon Carter so that she comes to the States and helps them fight the Flag Smashers. Now, I had predicted way before episode 5 that Sharon will definitely disguise herself as someone else. Now notice Sharon uses the same masking tech as Black Widow did in Captain America the Winter Soldier. The reason I can say it's the same technology is because both of them deactivated the mask touching the side of their heads. And notice the fake eyes retract first before any other parts of the face, which proves Sharon used the same masking tech as Natasha. The Flag Smashers then used some smoke grenades to gas the GRC facility. These are the smoke grenades that Batroc provided them in the last episode. Now notice the design Marvel used here is pretty similar to Norman Osborn's pumpkin bomb from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and that's a nice little callback. Then comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Sam Wilson officially becomes Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Honestly, this suit looks epic. It's comic accurate, authentic, and it has everything Sam lacks as a human. And I love the fact that my Captain America can actually freaking fly now. There's so much choreography that's possible now. And I also love how Marvel keeps the door open for Steve Rogers, as everyone inside the universe genuinely thinks he's really on the moon.
Captain America. I thought Captain America was on the moon.
Sam then realizes Carly isn't planning to attack the building. Instead, she's trying to force everyone out. Enters Batroc, who wants his revenge by killing the Falcon. So it comes down to Bucky and Sharon, who now have to prevent the evacuation. But notice, as Sharon walks in, the metal detectors detect weapons she's carrying. But the same metal detector didn't do anything when Bucky walked in. This is a callback to Black Panther, where we saw how Nakia, T'Challa, and Okoye casually went through metal detectors. So this establishes once again vibranium cannot be detected by metal detectors. Bucky then gets handed over a cell phone with Carly waiting on the line. Now there's something about this cell phone I have to tell you, lads. This may as well be the best detail of this episode. I'll explain it when I come to that scene, okay? Now this phone call is basically nothing but a distraction, so that Bucky doesn't stop the Flag Smashers from their mission. Bucky gave the same advice to her as he did to John Walker in the previous episode.
Trust me. Don't do this. Don't go down this path. Don't go down that road. Believe me, it doesn't end well.
It really comes a full circle, eh? I mean, we began with Bucky needing therapy and ended up with Bucky being a therapist for others. The GRC officials easily got lured into this trucks, as they believed they were being evacuated. This Flag Smasher, aka Lennox, uses this device to lock the truck, so that the hostages cannot break out. This locking device was also provided in the same case by Batroc. But sadly, this Flag Smasher was literally melted to death by Sharon. When she did this, I knew right then and there that I was correct with all my theories, that she may be the power broker. Now a third group of GRC officials were being evacuated through this chopper, which of course isn't the case. Just like in the truck, the people in this chopper were also being kidnapped by the Flag Smashers. So Sam goes after this helicopter while Bucky chases the trucks. And notice in the fight with Batroc, Sam used his thrusters to give him the extra bit of push he needed, whereas Steve would have used his super strength, which again goes to show that the suit is making up for all the things Sam doesn't have. Now Carly says something here that really took out any bits of empathy I had for her.
Worst case scenario, we kill the hostages. We're supposed to use them to negotiate, to stop that vote.
Anyway, so this scene where Sam goes after the chopper is just epic from start to finish. NYPD sends air support to help Sam, but their helicopter was also taken out by this Flag Smasher. As a result, Sam now had to rescue both of these pilots, which brings us to one of the best scenes of this episode. Sam literally creates a dome with his wings and the shield on top to deflect the crashing helicopter from hitting them. But notice his wings are so strong that it literally broke the concrete of the road, which is a very subtle detail that might indicate his wings are now made of vibranium. And just look at how strong the new red wing is. I'm so glad Marvel incorporated Wakanda in the show just to give Sam this awesome piece of suit. Cut to Bucky, who uses his motorbike to boost his own velocity and lunges onto this Flag Smasher. This move immediately reminded me of Steve Rogers, who did the same sort of move in Captain America the Winter Soldier. By the way, will I be wrong if I call this the solo version of Get Help? Carly orders a team to light up one of the trucks, so Bucky comes to rescue them. Now in order to save them, Bucky has to break this lock, so he gives everything he got to break the lock. And because Bucky was applying so much force, the vibranium arm almost couldn't take it, which is why it started glowing ever so slightly. Almost as if even this vibranium arm has got veins and they're about to pop due to overpressure. And that's why I love Marvel and everything they do with CGI. They put subtle details like this that adds life to the story. Now after Bucky manages to save them, one of the hostages thanks Bucky, and his reaction totally makes sense.
Thank you for saving us. You're welcome.
He's finally being seen as a hero that he once used to be. A part of him is coming to realize that him being a Winter Soldier isn't that bad. He can actually use that power to do good now. And then comes John Walker, aka the evil Captain America, aka the US agent.
Morgan Thaw!
Now, I'll be honest, I was rooting for him the entire fight. No matter how much the writers tried, I just couldn't sympathize with Karli and her motives. John then throws his shield at Karli, which of course doesn't last that long. More importantly, it doesn't come back to him as the old one used to do, and you could see the disappointment on Walker's face. The flag smashers overwhelm John, but Bucky comes to his rescue as well. So the person John almost killed in the last episode has now come to save his life. Cuts back to Sam, who's still trying to save the people on this helicopter. This time Sam makes a move which again is a callback to Steve Rogers. He does a flip to generate more power while throwing the shield. Something Steve Rogers did himself back in Age of Ultron, but he literally threw his bike, not just a shield. So Sam throws the shield to break the door of the helicopter and takes out the flag smasher. As I said, the choreography in this entire sequence was brilliant. Cut to Karli, who drives one of the trucks to the edge, because she's totally unhinged at this point. Her goal was to take hostage, but she obviously doesn't care if they live or die. And here comes one of my favorite moments from this episode. John looks at this falling truck on one side and Karli on the other, and immediately gets his head straight. He's not pure evil. He just wanted revenge for the death of his friend. But I'm so proud of the character now that he chose to save the people on the truck rather than taking revenge by killing Karli. Him dropping the shield and saving the truck wasn't just him throwing the shield away. It was him dropping his vengeance for a bigger cause. I do think he redeemed himself there. He may not completely be worthy of Cap's mantle, but he'll be one hell of an anti-hero. Can't wait to see more of his character in the future. Now, even though John did his best to prevent the truck from falling, he was again being attacked by the flag smashers. So comes the hero of the show, aka Captain America, to the rescue. Notice Bucky has a big smile on his face seeing Sam saving the truck. But that's not the only reason he's smiling here. This is the first time he's watching Sam in his entire Captain America costume, which Bucky gave him as a gift. Now, the way Sam used his drones here kinda reminds me of the ferry scene from Spider-Man Homecoming, where Iron Man used additional thrusters to stop the boat from sinking. Anyway, the people around New York really started accepting Sam Wilson as their new Captain America. And notice after Sam saved the truck, civilians were actually trying to unlock the door to rescue the people stuck inside. But then Red Wing came and did the job anyway. I feel like it's a nice touch for Marvel, because all we see from civilians is they stand on the side and clap, but it's nice to see them contributing to the fight as well. Batroc then helps Karli and a team escape from there by shooting smoke bombs. But with this upgraded version of his suit, Sam can now see thermal hit signatures through his visor. Wakandan tech appears to have boosted Sam significantly. Sam, Bucky, and John chase the flag smashers. Sam again through his visor detects that they split up. But notice what happens immediately after he says it.
Looks like they split up. Here.
I got it.
The way Sam lifted his hand probably means he would have stopped Walker from going there without having a plan first. But the point I'm trying to make here is notice how desperate Walker is sometimes to complete his mission. Something a perfect soldier does. He doesn't think twice before committing himself to something, whereas Sam ponders upon every possibility before going into a mission, because Sam has the ability to read a story from both sides. And then comes the big reveal. We come to know that Sharon has been the power broker all along, and she killed Batroc too. This is something I've been saying since episode 3. Now, a lot of you thought if Zemo knew the power broker by reputation, then it couldn't be Sharon, because Sharon used to be on the good sides back in the day. But I think power broker is a mantle, a position. Sharon might have killed a previous power broker to get there after she escaped from the States. So the power broker Zemo knew by reputation could be someone else entirely. Anyway, Sharon kills Batroc because he was blackmailing her that he would reveal her true identity to the world. We also learned that the flag smashers used to work for the power broker, aka Sharon. That's why they're not just a bunch of ordinary people with super serum. They have been trained as well. That's why Karli was able to defeat John Walker with his serum in a hand-to-hand combat. Had she didn't receive any training, John would have had the upper hand here. So this scene answered almost all the questions this show raised. Enter Sam, who's totally oblivious to the fact that Sharon is the power broker. He tries to talk his way through to Karli. He says he won't fight her, but would rather do some backflips. Sam saying he doesn't want to fight Karli is exactly what Steve kept saying to Bucky in Winter Soldier. Anyway, now this is possibly my favorite detail from the episode. As soon as Sam blocked a punch from Karli, he dug his wings into the floor to avoid getting blown back. I mean, how cool is that? And notice even in slow motion, it happens almost instantaneously. As soon as he blocks a punch, the wings start to dig into the floor. That's how responsive Wakandan tech is. Almost as if the suit has a telepathic connection to his mind. Whatever he needs during battle, the suit recognizes it and takes appropriate measures. And then this scene, which again proves Steve was right giving the shield to Sam.
Stay down!
No.
This is Sam's version of I can do this all day. Cut to Bucky and Walker, who catch the rest of the Flag Smashers. How did they do that? Simple. Bucky used the Flag Smashers app and located them using common sense. Now most of us are not talking about this scene enough, because there's a hidden detail here right in front of our eyes. Notice this is the same cell phone model that Bucky was handed over by this member of the Flag Smashers earlier in the episode. This is not Bucky's cell phone, because we already saw in episode 1 that he uses a flip phone. So instead of his muscle, Bucky used his brain. He simply kept that phone given to him by this member of the Flag Smashers. And this phone already happened to have the app installed, so he simply opened it and tracked them down. So if you think about it, Curly's phone call with Bucky is what led to the arrest of the founding members of the Flag Smashers. And they had no clue. So in the words of Thanos,
"The arrogant never do."
Another detail from this scene, when the Flag Smashers were following this app, it says FS-105B. Now FS obviously goes for Flag Smashers, but that 105B could be a nod to Captain America number 105, which featured Captain America fighting B for Batroc, which is exactly what happened in this episode. Carly, on the other hand, is fighting like a child. This is incredible acting by Erin Kellyman. Really appreciate what she has done with her character, but I think the point Marvel tried to make here is how generous and empathetic Sam Wilson is. He knows all the crimes that Curly committed already. He's witnessing how dangerous she has become, and despite all of that, he still decides to retreat. Perhaps this is what Steve saw in him when he gave him the shield. But a part of me still wonders, why was Sam so empathetic towards Carly? I think the show really couldn't convey that message due to the change in story, because before COVID the story was totally different for the Flag Smashers. There was a plague going on and the Flag Smashers were helping the poor people by giving them medicines, and when Marvel cut that part of the story, they became just another group of terrorists after that point. That's why we as an audience didn't develop any sympathy for her or her team. Sharon then shoots Carly to save Sam, but I think it was more to save her own ass from getting blown. Carly had become a liability, so she took her out. Sam then carries Carly's body outside, and even in this crucial moment, Marvel decides to make us laugh with this.
The government making Captain America. What do we call you? Is it so Falcon? Is it Captain Falcon?
Captain Falcon, eh? Tell me this isn't something you are thinking already. Sam then gives one of the most powerful speeches in the entire MCU, truly living up to the mantle of Captain America. Now I'm gonna play some of the bits that are my favorite.
"I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? The only power I have is that I believe we can do better. Look, you people have just as much power as an insane god or a misguided teenager. The question you have to ask yourself is, how are you going to use it?"
The writers really hit it out of the park with this one. I love the fact that Marvel allows the writers to create real-life-like conflicts inside the universe. They create conflicts, then they solve them, and then they show us the ramifications that came along with the solution. This formula could turn any one-dimensional story into a great story. Bucky officially calls Sam Cap for the first time, and the guy who believed Captain America lives on the moon now comes up to Sam and calls him Cap. Now the rest of the Flag Smashers that John and Bucky caught are now being transferred to the raft. But surprise, surprise, here comes Alfred, I mean Zemo's butler. He triggers a bomb and kills all of these Flag Smashers. Notice he also nods his head with satisfaction ever so slightly. So not just Zemo, even his butler despises super soldiers. Cut to the raft where Zemo is sitting in his cell peacefully, and here's the news of the bombing on the radio. He takes it that his butler did the job and smiles. And notice he's still reading the book by Machiavelli that we saw him reading back in episode 3. I think the reason the writers made sure to include the book in this scene is to tell the audience that Zemo hasn't changed an ounce. He still believes that the end justifies the means. Cut to this courtroom where John Walker was stripped of his titles, but now there's only Valentina and Walker's wife. Valentina comes to know about the bombing that killed some of the Flag Smashers on her phone. She understood that Zemo got the last laugh, and almost admits that it was her plan all along, or maybe it wasn't. Julia Louis-Dreyfus only had 2 scenes in the show and nailed both of them. She's adding to the mystery of her character, which is absolutely accurate with the comics. But notice her character is given an iPhone in this episode. Now some of you may not know this, but Apple doesn't allow movie makers to let villains use iPhones. Even though her character in the comics isn't an outright villain, but there are definitely some layers to it. I think the reason Marvel got away with giving her an iPhone is because the show really doesn't tell us whether she's on the good side or bad. This is why Sharon wasn't given an iPhone right from the start, because the big reveal made her one of the main villains. Enters John Walker, but this time in his complete US agent suit.
It's the same, but black.
The outfits of all the characters, the set, everything tells us Julia Louis-Dreyfus probably had a day of shooting to do, because the first scene where we saw her takes place outside of this room, so you can connect the dots there. Bucky then makes amends with Yuri. He confesses to Yuri he murdered his son. Even though I felt this scene was massively short, but Sebastian Stan's acting here is just flawless. I feel like his character has only been used as a sidekick to Anthony's character, so if there's a possibility of a season 2, I would definitely want to see more of Bucky. He also sends a thank you note to his actual therapist along with his book. book, with all the names now crossed. The fact that Bucky left her a thank you note goes to show that despite Bucky's reluctance, she still got through to him. And if it wasn't for her, maybe he would have never gotten the idea of amending. Sam then goes to meet Isaiah, and it seems as though Isaiah has finally come in terms with this new changed world. Sam asks him to get ready, because he wants to take him somewhere. Now notice Isaiah's grandson Eli shows some heavy interest here.
So, where are we going?
Eli didn't know what Sam was talking about, but he was still up for some adventure. This might be a stretch, but it could indicate his willingness to do something new, to not sit around the whole day, but to explore the world. This may as well lead him to become a member of the Young Avengers one day. Anyway, Sam took Isaiah and Eli to the Captain America exhibit at the Smithsonian Institution. Sam reveals a whole new section to the exhibit, completely dedicated to black super soldiers, precisely Isaiah Bradley.
Now they'll never forget what you did for this country.
What a beautiful closure to Isaiah's story. I might have shed a tear or two, lads. This was incredible. Then the episode ends with Bucky getting invited over to Louisiana. But notice, this time around, Bucky isn't wearing his gloves, which means he feels at home here. He even casually flexes his strength in front of Sam's sister. But boy, what a happy ending for both of them it was. Coming from a place where Bucky used to ignore Sam's messages, and now they're walking shoulder to shoulder. Then the title appears that says Captain America and the Winter Soldier instead of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't think any of us didn't smile seeing this title at the end. Now to the post-credit scene, the government now decided to not only pardon Sharon, but also return her old job. She pretends to be very emotional over here. And just as she walks out, she orders her men to prepare the lines of buyers. She says even though the super soldiers might not be available at this point, but she's about to gain access to thousands of other government projects and secrets. So as the power broker, she will definitely try to sell those to the highest bidders. And that's it. This would be my breakdown of Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 6 at 0.2 Febik speed.